Hello and welcome to my channel. It's Róisín here, and in today's video I'm going to share with you the magic that's possible using the two-colour technique.
Last week I was on an oil painting course which took place in Powerscourt in County Wicklow. You might have seen my previous video in which I explained what we did and what the tutor taught us to do. It was really excellent and I loved every minute of it. Didn't want it to end. One of the things that the tutor was at pains to impress upon us was the great usefulness of the two colours, ultramarine and burnt sienna. When added with titanium white, we had a very big range of greys and darks and blacks and all kinds of tones. So I wondered if I could do something similar in watercolour. And to that end, I took along a little tiny box with just burnt sienna and ultramarine in it. And of course, because I couldn't just, be chill and leave it at that, I took my regular paints along with me as well. But most of the sketch I'm about to explain to you today took place just in ultramarine and burnt sienna.
I was going to launch into the sketch I did down at the quay, but then I thought better of it and I thought, well, maybe you'd like to see the colours that I'm talking about close up first. So I grabbed this little crab that sits outside my studio and I launched in, and I used a lot of the burnt sienna colours and the burnt sienna mixes for the orangey parts of the crab, and I used combinations of ultramarine and I suppose different proportions of ultramarine for the shadows and the slightly grayer parts. And you can see how I really got those darks just from mixing concentrated ultramarine and burnt sienna. When you're reduced to just using two colours, it forces you to think about the values. What's darker than what? What's lighter than what? So it's an experiment I think you should definitely try. Kind of nice that I used a crab, which comes from the same place where I sketched the boat. So let's get back to the boat sketch that I did.
So here's the sketch in question. Now, it's not my finest by any manner of means, but that's not the point at all. Point is, it was just an attempt to see what would happen if I just use ultramarine and burnt sienna. But when you've only got two colours, it really, really forces you to think about what's darker, what's lighter, what's my contrast doing, without getting bogged down in too many colours. Now, I did add a little tiny bit of olive green and a tiny little bit of pinky red at the end, but only at the end. And I didn't think about those colours while I was making the bulk of the sketch. So it's an interesting experiment. Let's have a look and see how it got on. It'll come as no surprise to those of you who watch my channel that I like to bring Reuben with me, my little fluffy white dog, in the basket in the front of my bike. The shore is only about 5 or 10 minutes cycle for me, so it's ideal really. So here's the scene I'm going to do. It's a scene I've done so many times, but today the difference is I'm going to try it in just ultramarine and burnt sienna, because that is what I did on my oil painting course last week with Dave West, and I am going to see if such a thing can work for watercolour. And you can see Reuben over there just enjoying having the place to himself, because he's going to get tied up the minute anybody arrives, because he has zero road sense and he's only small. Okay, right, let's get started. Remember, things that change first get done first. And that means the tide, it means the reflections. At this point, it started to rain and it didn't really let up. I'm really glad that I am going to use two colours and two colours only for this. As you can see, my ink is running, but I think as long as my pen keeps functioning, I think it will be okay. To the shoreline. It has to be drawn quickly. Lots of squinting to get those bodies of light and dark. Alright, so let's see how that works paint-wise quickly.
my ultramarine. And I'm not worrying too much about the particular shade of blue, because remember, it doesn't really matter about getting the colour right exactly, it's more about the values. Okay, this is a bit of a messed up, dried up burnt sienna, so I'm just going to put some water in it like that. And by mixing ultramarine with burnt sienna, you get lots of different greys, which is what we want here. Okay, the rain's cleared up, so that's good. I'm going to try and make that super intense for under the bridge. Raining again, which is, I'm not going to lie, a little bit tricky when you're working with water media. So I'm just getting my darks down. I'm just concentrating on the darks and the lights. No more. Now, back to the pen. It doesn't look like much yet, and it may remain not looking like much. But I think if it just stop raining for, all I need is about 20 minutes. It's very hard to put an ink line on a sodden page. Ruben is very much less than impressed. Isn't that right, Ruben? You're less than impressed. But it's very warm, so. Okay, it's really raining now. So I'm going to try and get out of the rain for a minute. All right, so you can see how far I've got. It's not going very well because it's raining a lot, but all it has to do is dry up for 10-20 minutes and I'll be able to turn it into something pretty acceptable. Okay, well, it stopped raining there for a minute and I took advantage of it to get some drawing done, but it started again, so I'm going to sign off here and see if I can hide from the rain. Okay, we're done. Let me show you what I've managed to do. It's okay. It's not the most amazing sketch I've ever done in my life. Ruben's getting a bit annoyed. And this is about to open up on me. So I think it's time to go while the going's good. And I did add a few more colours other than
ultramarine and burnt sienna. I added, well, it's called Aquarius red, that red bit there, but it's basically kind of like a deep pinky red. And I added a tiny bit of Aquarius green. Might put a tiny bit more in that water. All right, better pack up, better be quick. Things are going to get bad. Well, I've got a lot more done than I expected to, because the rain really was shocking. It wasn't shocking, but it was kind of like drizzly and on and on and on. And I'm quite surprised that I got done what I got done. It's not like as controlled as I'm used to, partly because of the rain, and partly because I'm not used to using such a limited palette. But I wanted to see if I could do something interesting with that, and I think I have been quite surprised at the results. The idea with using a palette of just ultramarine and burnt sienna is that you mix them together to get your dark. So all those darks are just ultramarine and burnt sienna, maybe with a little bit of pen outline. Excuse me, seagull, I'm talking. And then you use them more or less diluted to get your other colours. But as I say, I did use a little bit of Aquarius green, which is a dark olive green. And as you can also see, the tide has come in considerably since I started drawing. If I could be sure the rain was going to hold off, which it isn't, then I would do another sketch. But I think, as I say, I have to go while the going's good. All right, let's get Ruben. Ruben, I bet you'd like to go, would you, sweetheart? Would you like to get going? Bet you would. All right, we will. It's actually really lovely down here, despite the impending doom. I think the heavens are about to open up on me now. Still, it's very peaceful. Just in case you'd like to know what I bring with me in my kit, I have a box of watercolours that has got quite a lot of colours in it. I've shoved colours down the middle aisle. I have my 3 travel brushes by Fumui, which are squirrel hair. They don't come with my sketch pocket as standard, but in fact, a box of them just arrived yesterday, so I will be supplying those as an optional extra. Then you can see a bunch of Sailor Fude pens. The pale pink one is a 45 degree and the dark green ones are 55 degree. Or the pale pink one is 40 degree. I can never remember which. Anyway, it's got a narrower angle. Then I've got my white gel pen, and I have my spare ink, and that's my little box with the ultramarine and burnt sienna in it that I've been using. So I used only that little box today, except for you can see the dark green and the red on that one. And then of course I've got my sketchbook, which has been put away to keep it out of the rain. You might notice my fingers are a funny colour. Well, even though it's midsummer in Galway, my hands haven't got the memo, and my fingers are that colour because they are cold. I'm living in the wrong country. I thought the study of boats in ultramarine and burnt sienna would make a great topic for class. So I sent it to my students, and I also sent the crab sketch from earlier in the video. I started the class just getting the students to draw and paint the boats in ultramarine and burnt sienna. But in hindsight, I think it would have been better if we'd started by making a little swatch chart of all the possible colour combinations of ultramarine and burnt sienna. Let's see what the class had to say. This was an excellent way to focus on values, and it always amazes me how many different shades of grey can be created by combining burnt sienna and ultramarine. Thanks, Róisín. I just used the 2 colours, found I didn't need to worry what colour, and amazing the range of values I could get. I feel a lot better about this after some mixing practice and a second go at the sketch. Thanks for another technique to add to our bag of tricks.
Enjoyed this. I love mixing and limited palettes, so this was very helpful. I did not realise so much could be done with burnt sienna and blue. Might give this another go with the recording. Thanks as usual for a great lesson. Wow, all this in 2 colours. A smidge of green. What do you think, Reuben?
So in conclusion, I'm going to say that ultramarine and burnt sienna make a fantastic duo for anybody who wants to really try and figure out how to work your values, how to make your lights look light in comparison to your darks. You still have to do the work of thinking about the darks and the lights and what's lighter than the bit next to it and what's darker than the bit next to it. But by eliminating a big range of colours, you will find the whole process much more straightforward. Well, that's the plan anyway. So have fun with it, and thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Happy sketching. What do you think, Reuben? You've been pissing everywhere, haven't you?
Remember, you can try my sketch club. You can join in the fun. 2 weeks free trial. I'll link it in the description.